Hello, and welcome to this video tutorial on how to create a dungeon pack for Alien Labs' procedural dungeon generator. In this video, we'll be covering all the steps you need to follow to create a simple 15 by 15 center door based dungeon pack that you can share with other players. So now let's get started. First is executing the command /dgEditor, which opens up the pack's menu. In here, you need to click the Add New Pack button, which is the green die, and then you will be prompted with a message asking you to input a name of the dungeon pack. Now this name will be used as the internal ID of the whole system. It must be one whole word and can be anything. So let's call our pack Dungeon 1. Right after that, you will then be asked to input the size of your dungeon pack. This would specify the size of tiles used within the dungeon pack. Since we are going to make a 15 by 15 dungeon, we would want to write 15 here. You would then have to wait for a few seconds or minutes for the dungeon pack to be created. The time will depend on your server's hardware. So once it is done, it will automatically present you with the dungeon editor menu. Now this is the heart of the dungeon pack. It is where you make all the changes and edit and configure your dungeon pack. In this menu, we just simply click over to the ender pearl to teleport us to the pack matrix. The pack matrix is where the magic happens. In the pack matrix, you will be created by two types of blocks, which is the red concrete block and the green concrete block. A red concrete block means that a tile is registered and is currently being used by the dungeon pack. A green concrete block, however, means it is a free tile and can be built upon, and currently not being used by the dungeon pack. A lobby tile, however, is registered upon the creation of a pack. This is registered by default. Now for building on the tile starts one block north from the concrete and extend it to the size of what you've configured. So the building of this tile starts here on this direct block and extends to the size of what we have configured, which in this case is 15. So in this case, it extends to 14 more blocks north and 14 more blocks east, which forms a 15 by 15 platform. So let me fill up this platform real quick. Now, after having a basic 15 by 15 platform, we also made a simple wall out of diorite, which would indicate the walls of the tile. We also marked the center of each direction with 3 lime blocks, which is where our doors will be located. Now, in order to configure our doors, we would first need to determine in which direction the door is located. So once we stand in front of a door, we can toggle F3 and see that the door we are looking at right now is set west. Supposedly, this is the west center door. So now in order to configure the door, we need to estimate its offset. So we will be placing a temporary block or a marker, let's say a magenta block. And we will be placing this marker on the low left end of the door to help us estimate the offset quicker. Now we need to estimate the offset from the first north block from the red concrete to the magenta. Now here we made a trail of countable blocks to the magenta wall, which will guide us to getting the estimate. So the blocks extending north will always be a negative value. So in our case, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that means this is -7. And then blocks extending east will always be a positive value. So in our case, it is only 1, since it extends from the magenta block to this block to only 1. So this means this is +1. Hence our west center door value is 1 and -7. Now let's try estimating a south center door, as it is a slightly different process. So first is we will count the blocks extending north. So for blocks going north, we always have to take into account the first block. We would count starting from this red wall. So 1 and then 2. Since blocks extending north will always form a negative value, we have a value of -2. Now for blocks extending east, we don't need to take the first block into account, so we can skip this red wall entirely and start our counting from this orange wall. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now the blocks extending east will always form a positive value. So in this case, we have a positive value of 8. So we have a south center door with a value of +8 and -2. Now, if we repeat the same process to the other doors, we will get all of these values. So be sure to take note, for blocks going north, you must always consider the first block, and for blocks going east, you shouldn't take the first block into account. Now we once have all the values collected, we want to open the dungeon pack editor again. But here in this menu, we then select the doors menu. And in here, we would want to select the general door settings at the bottom. In here, we will be greeted by a set of buttons. Now these 4 buttons are the ones that we're currently looking for. In these 4 buttons, we would need to input the value we previously collected. So let me do that real quick. After inputting all the values we collected, you will have something like this. So great, so far so good. So we just made these door structures and configured their locations, but we are still missing some crucial parts. Now for the next step, we will be configuring the lobby tile, as well as the enter and exit locations of the dungeons. So let's first start by navigating through /DG editor and clicking our dungeon. Now we head over to the tiles menu, and then we will be greeted by the tiles menu. Now this button shows us the setting for our lobby tile. Now the color of the glass determines what type of tile it is. So for blue, it is the lobby tile, and then for yellow, it is the vault tile. For purple, the boss tile. Orange is the elite tile, and then white is the normal tile. Now in order to generate a dungeon, we are required to at least have one of each type. But for now, we are going to stick to the lobby configuration. So click on the blue glass and we will be greeted with the following GUI. Now since our doors are currently located only on the center of each direction, we are going to disable the left and right doors of each side of the tile. So here, the north left door and north right door. And then we leave the center door enabled. And then we will be doing this on all sides as well. After doing so, this should be our end result. And then after, we would want to click the sand block, which is the time per tile. So the time per tile is something like the time given to a player to complete the tile. A better explanation for this should be, this is the clear time for the certain tile. And that clear time adds up to each tile, and then the sum of those tiles will make the total time left for the dungeon. So let's say, in this case, our lobby tile has a 1800, which is 30 minutes. Since the value of this is in seconds. So one lobby tile would give the player 30 minutes of time for their total time. Time per tile is how much time is estimated for player to take care of this tile. So the timer of a dungeon isn't fixed. It is a dynamic timer, as the time is based on the number of tiles and the time per tile of each tile. I hope that wasn't too confusing for you. So now we would like to set the spawn and exit location for the dungeon. So first, we would need to build up our location within the lobby. So as an example, we will be building 2 small U-shapes with temporary flying blocks on top. So like this. So these are our U-shapes. Then put a temporary block on top of it. So let's say pink and red. So this will be our spawn and exit locations. So next is we will be going to set these locations. So let's head back to /DG editor and click over to the conduit or the general settings menu. Now in here, we would need to click the ender pearl, which is the dungeon spawn. Once we click that, we will be greeted by a message saying that to right click a block. So let's click the red wall. And then next is we will set the dungeon exit, and then let's click the pink wall. So now our spawn and exit location are set. Next is we would need to set the gold ingot, which is the vault room chance, to a number different than 0. So the vault room chance, this is gold ingot. The bigger the number you input, the more rarer a vault room will be generated, beside the 2 guaranteed 1 at the start and end of the dungeon. So let's say we'll have 10. So now this is the odds of how rare an extra vault should be generated. Next is the nether wart, which is the elite room chance, which is technically the same thing as vault rooms, but there are no guaranteed elite rooms in generation, so they are all luck based. So let's put the value of 10 as well. So now, as mentioned earlier, we would need to create at least one type of tile, so let's do that. So let's head back to /DG editor, and then dungeon 1, and then click the tiles menu once again. And at the bottom, you will see the register new tile. Now once we click the register new tile button, we will be then asked to input the name of the tile. It is recommended that if you are going to build a huge number of tiles, you need to somehow mark them by ID, like Vault 1, Boss 1, Elite 1, and Normal 1. So for our first example, we'll call them Vault 1. And then we will be sent a message that says to right click a green concrete block to claim the tile. So here we will right click this green concrete block and then it registered the tile. And then that block will turn to red, which means it is currently being used by the dungeon pack. Now we will repeat all of these steps for the boss tile, elite tile, and normal tile. So once all the tiles are registered, they are all normal types as default. So we want to change that. So we want to navigate to the tile settings of that certain tile. So once we are in the tiles menu, so let's click over to a tile. So Vault 1 for example, and we need to set the tile type. So it's this white stained glass. So once we click it, it will change the tile type. So this is the vault type. So let's change it to the vault tile. So we want to do this for all those tiles we registered as well. So once we finish doing so, our tiles menu would look like this. Now what we want is to toggle the left and right doors for every tile as well as set the time per tile for each. Now if you have done all of those correctly, once you go back to the main pack settings and hover your mouse to the general information or the book, north, west, south, and east are all the same with 0, 5, and 0, which means the left and right doors are unused and the center door is used. The number 5 means that out of the 5 tiles we have created, we are only using the center doors. And for those who are confused on why it says the used tile is 6, it is because the dungeon automatically registers one tile internally beside the lobby, but that tile isn't available for edits. After that, we would want to build the tiles like we did with the lobby. In our example, we transfer the lobby to a blue tile, boss to purple, vault yellow, elite to orange, and normal to white. So let's build all of the tiles. Now the next thing we need to do is to create our doors. So what we want to do is we want to navigate to the end of our matrix towards east, where at the end we will find a gray concrete block instead of green. Now this is where our door matrix is located. So in here, similar to tiles creation, we want to create a few doors. So let's first go into /DG editor, dungeon 1, and then head over to the doors menu, and then once in the doors menu, click the green die to register a new door. So now we would want to create 4 doors, which is the normal door first, and then after typing the ID for the normal door, we will be prompted to please right click our gray concrete block to claim the doors. So let's right click this block for example. So that door is now registered. Now right clicking the block will turn the gray concrete block to brown blocks, indicating that they are registered. Now let's register the other doors. So let's head back to /DG editor, dungeon 1, doors menu, register another door. Let's call this one the boss door. And then right click another gray concrete block. So I'll do this also for the vault door and the elite door. Now once we have made all of our doors, we then have to build a simple 3x3 door without respectful designs for each. So now once we have built all of the doors, which is the normal door from stone, the boss door from deep slate, the vault door from gold blocks, and then the elite door from oak planks. And then we also place a dispenser in the middle. Now this will be used for the location where keys will be inserted to open the doors. So now we want to head back to /DG editor, and then the doors menu, and then select a door, and we will start by selecting the normal door. And once we are in the GUI, we want to toggle lock state of the door, which would be clicking this button, the tripwire. And then we would also want to set the type of each door respectfully. So for this is a normal door. So what we want to do is to set this door type to normal since it's already there. So for boss doors, for example, We would want to toggle this door on next setting and turn it to the door lock. Next is we would want to set the type. So this is a boss door. So we would type in boss. And this is what it should look like. Now we would want to do this for other doors as well. If we want to set the type to vault, we will type vault, and then for elite, we will type elite. Now after doing all that, we now want to set the chance of the door. Now this would indicate how often this door will be selected across all doors from the same type. Now since the air door is a normal type door, you would want to set the lock door to a small value than air. And in order to make lock doors appear a little bit rarer than air doors, we recommend setting this to 2 and leaving the air door to 10, which is by default. So for normal door, we would want to set this to 2. And we would want to do the same thing to all the other doors. Now after doing so, since we toggled the offset of the door to locked, we would want to set up the offset coordinates as well as the animation coordinates for each of the doors, respectively normal, boss, vault, and elite. However, we won't be going in much detail about this as this is quite complex and long process to understand. Therefore, we will just provide you with the offsets for a dispenser located in the middle of a 3x3 door, as well as the animation offsets for 3x3 doors going down upon opening. Now here is the offsets for the dispenser. Feel free to pause the video. And here are the animation offsets. Now still feel free to pause the video. Now once you have those information noted down, you would want to go back to /DJ editor, click dungeon 1, and then go back to the doors. Then let's set all of these to the coordinates we noted down. So for example, as a north offset, we have 1, 1, and -1. And then for south offset, we have -1, 1, 1. And then for example, for the animation, we have 0, 0, -1, -2, -1, 2, 2, and then -1. So we want to set the animation offsets as well as the dispenser offsets. Okay, so now we have the normal door done. Be sure to double check all of the values you typed. Then after double checking, we would now want to repeat this process to the other doors. Now after setting all of those values and making sure that they are all correct, we would then want to link the doors to the tiles. So let's head back to the editor first. And in the pack settings, we want to go back to the tiles menu. And then clicking a tile. So this is the vault tile. And then we would want to enable the connector and then link the door type to the respective door. So for this is a vault tile. We will be setting the type to vault. And we also want to make sure that this is locked. Now this applies to vault tiles, boss tile, elite tiles. Connector enabled, make sure it is locked. You would have to do this for each boss, elite, and vault tiles respectively with their values. For lobby tiles, however, you would simply have to leave the connector disabled. And for normal tiles, you would want to decide if you want certain normal tiles to be always locked and guarantee lock status, or still refer to simply normal doors and be sometimes locked, sometimes unlocked, and this option is recommended. Okay, now we have finished setting up the doors. We now need to register keys, mobs, boss, blocks, loot, and waypoints. So in order for a dungeon to properly generate, you need to set up at least 5 key locations in the lobby tile, every normal tile, and at least 1 waypoint location in every tile, at least 1 boss mob location within a boss tile, and at least 1 elite mob location within an elite tile. But as for loot, blocks, and spawners, they're optional. So first, let's head back to our pack matrix. Now we would need a sign. Now setting up key and waypoint locations are among the easiest thing to do. So now in our lobby tile, we will need to place a key location. For example, let's place it here. And then type K enclosed with brackets. We need to do this 5 times. As said, we need at least 5 key locations in the lobby. Okay, so once we have those signs set it up, we need to simply navigate back to /DG editor, then Dungeon 1, Tiles menu, lobby, and then we need to click the command block register menus. Here in this GUI, this is where we will be registering mobs, spawners, loot, keys, blocks, and waypoints. But right now, we are only going to focus on keys. So let's click the keys menu. So once in the keys menu, we simply have to click the paper, which is a save pool. Now what happens is it saved all of those signs. You can see it disappeared, and we would receive a message in chat saying that you successfully saved the key pool for tile name lobby. Next is setting up the waypoints, which follow the same structure as we did with keys, but instead of using the letter K, we use W, like this. Now you simply have to set at least one waypoint location per each tile in your list, including lobby, boss, elite, alt, and normal tiles. Now let's head back to /DG editor, Dungeon 1, Tiles menu, lobby, register menus, and then waypoints menu. Here, same thing to save pool of paper. Now you simply have to set at least one waypoint location for each tile in your list. This includes the lobby tile, the boss tile, elite tile, alt tile, and the normal tile. So we're finished with the lobby tile, so we will then do the other tile next. And before we forget, we also need to register keys at each normal tile. So we have one normal tile here. We have to do all the steps that we did, the same thing as we did with the lobby. Now this is where things start to get interesting with setting up pools. Up next is setting up the boss for our dungeon, or so-called the pool of bosses. Dungeons allow you to make a pool of infinite amount of bosses that are randomly selected within each generation. Now for the sake of this tutorial, we are just going to do a simple Vindicator boss setup. So first, let's head over back to the editor, Dungeon, and then the Maps menu. And then in the following GUI, we first want to navigate to the content menu or the chest right here. Now we are in an empty GUI, and at the bottom, we have 2 buttons. To create new mob content, this is only available in case of Mythic Mobs is installed. So for now, we will use the create new mob content. So once we click it, we will be then asked to input the name of the mob. Let's call this boss 1. After doing so, we will be prompted with the following GUI. So what we need to set up here is a zombie head, which is the vanilla entity type. So right now, the value is zombie and we want to change it to a Vindicator. After doing so, we simply want to head back to the mobs menu and then transition ourselves the pools menu. So here we will be prompted with an empty menu once again, and we would want to create a new pool. So once again, we'll be asked to input the name of the pool. Call this boss pool. After doing so, we will be prompted with the pool settings. Now effectively, we want to toggle the wither skeleton skull, or the is boss option. Now we want the value to be set to true, since this is going to be our boss. Now we want to navigate to the content settings menu. Then here, this is where we finally get to link our boss content with our pool. Now simply click at the bottom to add new entry to the content button, and then add boss 1 as entry to the list. This should be the result after doing all those. So now we simply want to go back to the main pack settings and then teleport ourselves to the boss tile. Now once again, place a sign in the middle or anywhere you want to position the boss, and then write the following. So the same as keys and waypoint, we do the same thing, but instead of K and W, we use M for mob. And then on the next line, we type G. Now G means guarantee, so this will always spawn no matter what. However, you can also write C for conditional, which would require a number from 1 to 99 at the 4th line to make it a conditional and spawn sometimes. But for a boss, we need to set it to G because a boss is required for a dungeon objective to be completed. And then line number 3 is where we input the name of the pool we created earlier. So boss pool. So once we're done, let's head back to /DG editor, Dungeon 1, Tiles menu, Boss 1, Register menus, then Mobs menu, and then Cave Pull Paper. So now we have successfully saved the Mobs Pull for tile. And then for Elite, we pretty much do the same thing, but instead of toggling the Ease Boss option, you have to toggle the Ease Elite option instead. Once again, let's get back to /DG editor, Dungeon 1, Mobs menu, Content menu, create new mob content. Let's call this 1. And then for the vanilla entity type, you can just set this to default, which is zombie, just for the tutorial's sake. Now let's head back, then switch over to the pools menu. Now let's create a new pool, and let's name this Elite Pool. Now here in this menu, instead of toggling the Ease Boss option, we then set the Ease Elite option to true, and then head on over to Content Settings menu, and then add new entry to the content, and then type in the Elite mob that we created, so Elite 1. After doing that, we just repeat the same steps when we set it up the boss mob. So get an oak sign, then place it down, and then M within close brackets, and then here instead of using G, we will use C for conditional. Since we're using C, we need to set a number from a range of 1 to 99. So we need to set that number in line 4. So let's put an example of 50, and then for the third line is the pool that we created, so Elite Pool. Now let's head back to /DG editor, Dungeon 1, Tiles menu, Elite 1, Register menus, then Mobs menu, then click on the paper to save our pool. Now for other things such as blocks, instead of using M, we then use B. And for spawners, the sign key will be S. And then for loot, sign key will be L. You basically just follow the same format and structure, but you have to make them within the respective menus. And also be sure to validate your pack from the editor GUI, otherwise you might have to redo all of that. Once again, you can do that by going back to /DG editor and clicking this slime die. And after the dungeon packs are validated, you will be prompted with these messages. Now once you have done everything, you can simply run /DG test dungeon 1 20 20. So this means that our dungeon properly generated, and if you see anything other than 20 right here, that means you did something wrong along the way, which prevents generation from properly generating. Now we are now able to test our dungeon. So let's do /DG generate dungeon 1 20. Now this is tiles and this is our lives. So once we enter, we should be teleported to our dungeon. So here's the Elite tile, except he's a zombie and it's daytime, that's why he's on fire. And then the boss room, and as you can see here, our doors are properly placed in their proper orientation. And here on some areas like this is the air door. And as for the armor stands, you can see here, this is the key. Then here we can see the animation that we set with the animation offset. And also a side note, that since we set it up the vault to have a chance of 10, it is somewhat much more frequent that it spawned an extra 2. However, you can change the value to something like 100 for the vault to be generated less frequently. Now here are some examples with what you should be getting as final results from your journey with this tutorial. Now this is where the journey begins. Unleash your creativity and make your own dungeons, and then let your players conquer them. Now thank you for sticking till the end, and good luck with dungeon making.